'Cause I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man. I've breathed the mountain air, man. Of travel I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. Been to Tullamore, Seymour, Lismore, Mooloolaba, Nambour, Roochdore, Kilmore, Marillaba, Birdsville, Emmaville, Wallaville, Connemara, Connemara, Strathrown,
Bunbury,
Alladala, Darwin, Gingin, Lillaquen, Muckdilla,
Bunbury,
Bougainville, Cumberland, Ramakiller. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man.
That is Lucky Star, and he's been everywhere, and there is no evidence to suggest this from the song, but I reckon he's probably been to Bunbury, where we find Josh Antonio. G'day, Josh.
Hey, Neil, how are you going?
Doing very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us 2 hours earlier than everybody else normally joins us, because you're in just south of Perth. Tell us how far south of Perth.
About 2 hours south of Perth. It's a straight shot down on the freeway or the Forest Highway, depending on how far you get down. It's quite a lovely trip, actually, very easy one.
And right in the heart of the agricultural triangle that sits in that bottom corner of Western Australia. Everything else is mining and desert and sand, they tell us, but you've got a good spot, been there. It is a lovely, lovely part of the world.
It is absolutely fantastic down here.
You're a boy from Northam originally, and you've moved down to Bunbury. You'd notice a difference on a few fronts. One, it's not on the Great Eastern Highway for starters, but secondly, near the beach.
Yes, everywhere's near the beach down here. It's quite a change. It was always a bit of a holiday thing to go out to the beach for us growing up, and now I can just pop down and take the dog for a walk.
So if people are coming to Western Australia, they normally go to Perth, and Perth is beautiful, lovely spot, loved it. And the big one seems to be Margaret River. So put your sales hat on and tell me why I should spend a week in Bunbury rather than going to Margaret River, or can we do both happily?
Oh, you can happily do both. It's only about an hour drive, hour and a half maybe, out to Margaret River further out from Bunbury. So it's a really good spot to just come down from Perth, get a bit of accommodation, and then go tour the southwest. So we've got all Bustleton, Margaret River, and all the caves, so the Cape to Cape walk, and heaps of outdoor hikes you can go to out there. Plenty to do around this area of the world.
And my recollection is that Margaret River is arguably the most boring town in the entire world, because there's nothing there, but it's surrounded by other smaller settlements with wineries everywhere. So you wouldn't probably even need to do the hour and a half to get to Margaret River before you start hitting wine country. I guess it's probably, an hour out of Bunbury?
Yeah, probably thereabouts. I haven't stopped at any of the wineries on the way, and there's a couple new small breweries around that way as well. It's been quite good to go to.
He's a beer man.
Oh, he's a beer man, are you, Josh?
Like he knows the breweries, doesn't know the wineries.
Yes, yeah. Well, I've got a few friends whose family have wineries down this way that I've definitely gone and checked out and enjoyed.
Yeah, but nice.
I've gone a bit more varied on the breweries down this way.
Now, question without notice: am I right in saying that Bunbury is the second biggest city in Western Australia behind Perth?
I believe it is. Yes.
Okay, so what sort of population are we talking? 100,000, 200,000? Do you have any idea what that is?
I actually don't. I'd be guessing somewhere in a couple 100,000, but I wouldn't know what level that is, though.
Yeah, okay, because to put that into Victorian terminology, we're talking a Bendigo kind of sized town, so it's a big place.
Yeah, very much so, and very pretty part of the world, I said. So the town would obviously be driven by a lot of different industrials. You're too big for agriculture being the key one, but as I said, that bottom little triangle in Western Australia is highly productive agriculturally. But what other businesses are huge employers in Bunbury?
There's actually quite a few big employers around here, all around the industrial zone. So we've got all the Tronox and Simcoa and Worsley, a lot of refineries and sort of all the very stereotypical West Australian high-vis work. But because it's all located around town, most people actually do a bit of more of a drive-in, drive-out. So you go into work for your 12-hour shift, and then at the end of the day you drive home and you get to spend the rest of the night with your family. And
the population of Bunbury itself, is it enough to cover all the businesses, or are you close enough to Perth that some Perth residents would come down and work in your region?
I think it's a little bit of both. There's quite a few people who are based here locally, because with the businesses having set up and spent so much money to establish their operations here, there'd be a big drive to put money back into the local economy. So there's a lot of from what I know, there's a lot of contracts that require people to live in town or close by to town to stop people having to drive 2 hours. It's also a safety concern, I imagine. but otherwise there's always jobs going for people who if they want to relocate and come down to the beautiful southwest.
And what about the work from home phenomenon? Big over here, Western Australia being so vast with businesses and highly productive businesses working in the mining industry. Is there a work from home contingent in Bunbury over there as well?
I believe there is. It might not be as prevalent as it is over east, but there's definitely a section that is work from home, because all these businesses still have to have their own departments for HR and finance and whatever other more administrative, I suppose, or office-based desktop work is. But yeah, you don't need to be on the sites to do that kind of stuff. You just need a space to plug a computer in and sit down and be comfortable.
If you're a miner, though, using an excavator, you probably don't want to be working from home, Rob.
No, probably not. No, that's
you dig up your front lawn and it's all over in about 10 minutes.
Thinking more about the person who's paying them, or counting the beans for the bean counters.
Fair enough too. So, living in a Bunbury, how often would people need to go to Perth? I mean, everything would be there, I would have thought.
Yeah, everything you need is down here. I mean, I think people only really go up to either meet a bit of family who doesn't want to travel down, or go to one very specific shop, but most of everything you need is already around here.
Now, I recall visiting Bunbury, I suspect we're going back 20 years, I guess, maybe 25 years since I've been to Bunbury. I think I'm right in saying that if you go back 50 years, that foreshore area as you come into town used to have fuel terminals and so forth on the foreshore, and my recollection was they were picked up and taken out sort of towards the east a little bit of town, and that whole foreshore had been redone. Am I right in saying that, or don't you know?
Yes, yeah, it's all been redone. I think that's all Kumbana Bay that you might be talking about there.
Okay.
Developed. Because,
to again put it into terminology that the local folk would understand, when you go over the top of Westgate Bridge and you see all those fuel tanks that that Mobil and BP and Caltex have got there just near the bridge, those big tanks were actually on the foreshore. And so imagine being in Geelong and at Western Beach and having those plonked on the side of the beach. It must have been a pretty horrible looking place to start with, but it's all been redone.
Yeah, there's been a lot of work put into doing up all those foreshore areas. So there's the Dolphin Discovery Centre that's along Kumbana Bay there, which is really lovely to go check out. So they've got all the bottlenose dolphins that rest and breed and all that around there.
Yep.
You've got all the cruises and tours and go swim with them, I believe.
And do people come there for tourism purposes? Like, are the good folks of Perth likely to come down there for their Christmas holidays, or is it more tourists like Rob who did the big circle, turn left at Norseman and away you go?
I'd hope it'd be a bit of both, because there's plenty of tourism opportunities. I mean, it's an easy shot. I mean, anybody on a long weekend you'd see on the highway, it's just full of caravans and campers coming south from Perth.
Yep.
And out to probably more around Busselton, Margaret River area for all the campers.
Oh, Rob's doing things in the next studio and playing music. Better turn him off. So you just bought yourself your first property down there, and I'm assuming that that means that there's a fair number of new housing estates and that sort of stuff going on as well, is there?
Yes, yeah. So I got really lucky. Mine's only a couple of years old, but there's plenty of new developments and builds going up. And around where I bought, there's heaps of empty land that's going to have more houses in the next 5-10 years, I imagine.
Well, it sounds like an exciting place to be, and I know I've said this to you a couple of times. I really must get over there and have a look at some stage, because it's been a while. But for folks who want to know more about Josh's story and my conversation with him, we were on an episode of My Birth Year, which is a podcast I've been pushing a little bit on this show in recent times. Please make sure that you check it out. Go to mybirthyear.au. Not only can you hear from Josh, but there's another episode that features his mum and another episode that features his grandma. So it's a really interesting conversation to be had with the family. So Josh Antonio from Bunbury, thanks for being part of Regional Roundup.
No worries at all. Thank you very much for the call, Neil.
We'll chat soon. There he is, Josh Antonio from Bunbury.